Okay, so we last left off with activity 5. We did this together in class, and those of you who couldn't attend class, you should have watched the video and you would have seen that we practiced figuring out the meaning of words that we didn't know by using these context clues. So there are 5 context clues that we went over and practiced using. So we just have 2 more slides in our What is College and Career Readiness presentation and 1 more activity. So this last slide refers to reading foundations and standards. So that means what reading foundations and standards do adult ed students need for college and career readiness. So it says they need to be able to use syllables and sounds correctly. So we've gone over this quite a bit in my bridge classes. So both Betty and Susanna know that we practice how to break words up into syllables and how to pronounce words correctly using phonics. So we will go into that more later. We will be learning the specifics of how to break words down and how to understand how to pronounce them using phonics and syllables. So this relates to that. It says, for college and career readiness, you need to know how to decode words using both phonics and root words. So root words. Our languages and a lot of the Latin languages are based on Greek and Latin, and our root words are very, very similar to each other. And you can figure out the meaning of a word if you know what particular roots mean. So this is also something we did in my classes last year. We went over the meanings of root words and tried to figure out what certain words meant based on their roots. For example, let's think, okay, like the ending ist, psychologist, let's see, other words ending in ist, a botanist, what else might have ist on the end? Can you guys think of any? I'm drawing a blank. Okay, so if you look at ist, it basically means person who practices.
Misogynist.
Oh, misogynist. There we go. My brain, my husband's helping me out. A misogynist. Although you may not know the root of the beginning part of the word, you do know that the end part of the word, ist, means person who practices whatever that first part of the word is, right? So psycholo, psyche means mind, right? Psyche, psychologist, right? Oh, illusionist. My husband's giving me all these words. So, person who practices the profession of psychology, right? Psychologist. Or misogynist. Why did you give me that one? Don't say that. Okay, but you understand when you know root words, it gives you some major clues as to what words mean. So it's really good to get familiar with root words. And then finally, read with accuracy and fluency to comprehend. So this is a big challenge for you guys, right? You end up having to read maybe more than once to get accuracy, because you may come across words that you don't know, and you might have to use the context clues method to figure out the meanings of words that you don't know. That's the quickest way usually to do it, rather than having to stop, look it up in the dictionary, and go back to it. Sometimes it's best to just use the context clues method and keep on reading. just substitute the word you don't know with another word that makes sense in the sentence. And now you kind of know what that word means that you didn't know, right? So this is how you're going to increase your accuracy and fluency. You're going to use context clues to keep reading quickly. Fluency means how quickly can you read, right? And accuracy means when you're done reading, how much of it did you understand, right? So sometimes it's really hard to understand when you have to keep stopping and starting. So sometimes it is better to use context clues so that you can keep reading so that your understanding can be regular. It's hard when you're stopping and starting. Okay, so that was that page. That was the last of the standards. So there's something else that they talked about at the very beginning, this definition. It said, what does college and career readiness mean? And it says, this was just a definition that I found on the internet. It said, students must gain the knowledge, skills, and dispositions. So all the other slides were talking about knowledge and skills, mostly a little bit on the knowledge and mostly on the skills, right? It didn't say anything about dispositions. So the standards do not, they don't deal with the dispositions. But there's another document put out by the State Framework for College, Career, and Citizenship Readiness. That was a tongue twister. By the Council of Chief State School Officers. It's all a mouthful. Basically, it just means somebody in the government who was put in charge of this, right? So they came up with this list of dispositions. That means like things, traits that would be really good for you to have to be successful in college and career. So these are the traits that they came up with. Let's just like go through and pronounce these together. Some of them are going to be words that you don't know how to pronounce. You might not even know what they mean yet. So I'm just going to say them and have you repeat them back to me right now. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy. Let's try one more time. Self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
Good. Let's try one more time. Self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
Perfect. Okay. Next one. Initiative.
Initiative.
Close. Initiative.
Initiative.
Perfect. Next one. Integrity.
Integrity.
Oh, that sounded good. Intellectual curiosity.
Intellectual curiosity.
Let's do the words separately. Intellectual.
Intellectual.
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Good. Adaptability.
Adaptability.
Good. Study skills.
Study skills.
Time goal management.
Time goal management.
Leadership. Self-control.
Self-control.
Collaboration. Communication. Problem solving. Critical thinking. Self-awareness. Persistence. Applied knowledge. Social personal responsibility. Okay, awesome. Okay, so self-efficacy, me and my husband were like, wow, why did they pick that word? It's such a weird word. Efficacy means the ability of something to do what it was intended to do. That's what efficacy means. Like if a drug company is doing a test on the efficacy of a drug, they're testing to see if the drug does what it's supposed to do. That's what efficacy means. It means the thing does what it's supposed to do, right? So when you say self-efficacy, it means that you are able to do what you're supposed to do. You're able to get yourself to do what you're supposed to do. So I shortened that to be able to complete tasks. Okay, able to get yourself to do the things that you're supposed to do is really what self-efficacy means. But it's kind of a weird way to say it, right? To get yourself to do what you're supposed to do. Basically, it just means you're able to complete tasks that you're supposed to complete. Okay, so this is an obvious thing that would help you in your college or your career. Initiative. Initiative. Yes. So have you guys heard initiate before? Initiate? That's another form of this word. Initiate means to begin something. I will initiate the conversation. That means I will speak first. I will initiate the conversation. So when you have initiative, that means that you start things independently. You don't wait around for someone else to start something. You take it upon yourself to start things first. And this is really, really valuable in a job setting because oftentimes bosses do not have the time to go around and think about everything they need their employees to do. They need their employees to figure out the best things to do on their own and just do them. That's so helpful. I mean, as parents, you guys know this, right? It's really, really helpful when your kids figure out what is supposed to be done and they just do it. Then you don't have to be the one keeping track of who's doing what all the time. It really helps you out a lot when people take the initiative to do things themselves that they know need to be done. This is super valuable. If you want to be like a really, really valuable employee, do this and you won't get fired. Your bosses will be like, oh my gosh, Betty knows what needs to be done. I can't fire her. She gets stuff done. I don't even have to ask her. She just does it, you know? Yeah. It just makes people's lives a million times easier. Yeah. Okay. Integrity. So this just means that people have strong morals. They don't lie. They don't. That's one of the biggest ones. They don't lie, or they don't blame other people for things, or they don't make excuses for things, or they show up when they say they're going to show up. Right? That's integrity. It just means that you stand by your beliefs and you have strong beliefs. You believe that people should not lie. You believe that people should do what they say they're going to do. All of those things. So integrity is also one of those things that is going to make your employer or your teacher have confidence in you. Because they know that you're not going to lie. They know you're not going to blame somebody else. They know you're going to do what you said you were going to do. They know you're going to show up when you say you're going to show up. It's like one of the top things, right? They can rely on you. Okay. Intellectual curiosity. I found this one actually really refreshing. I was so happy to see this on the list. And it just means that you don't just do like the stuff that's asked of you. You are curious about more and different things. So you ask questions, you research things, you compare what you're doing to what other people are doing in other places. You research on the internet how to do things better or different. It just means you take a personal interest in what you're doing, and it actually is exciting to you. You have an interest in it, and you personally decide to just do it on your own, like research things on your own. I do this all the time in my job, like the Language Buddies thing. I saw that there was a need in our program, and it was really driving me crazy that so many of the very beginning students were struggling so badly with online learning. And I, on my own, came up with the idea of Language Buddies. And I just got excited about that. I was curious, how would this work in our program? What would it do for our students? It made me feel happy and excited. I was curious, and so it was kind of a mixture of initiative. I did something on my own, and intellectual curiosity. I researched and thought about it ahead of time, like how would this impact people? And I really think it's going to be a good thing. Like it makes me excited. It makes me happy. Yeah. So I'm curious for you guys. I'm going to ask you guys a little bit of a question. So in your personal situations, have you ever used this skill, like intellectual curiosity, being curious about something and kind of researching it all on your own outside of the situation? Anybody ever like done something like this, like at church or at school, or just done something a little bit above and beyond what you were asked to do, because you found it exciting and you were curious and you wanted to study? Can you guys think of anything?
Well, now with the internet, it's so easy to go to do research, maybe for maybe my plants cares. I need to looking for how, if I need to put more water, less water. Or my dad has surgery like a month later, and I was looking for information about the cares, what we need to wait. What we can wait about that kind of surgery. And
that is super awesome. Yes, yes, Betty. Awesome. That makes me so happy to hear that you're doing that. That's like the difference between an educated person and an uneducated person. The ability to do research personally by yourself and tell the difference between the information that isn't so good and the information that seems like it's based on fact, right? Because there's a lot of information out there that really is not based on fact, right? So you have to get good at figuring out which sources are reliable. And that's a skill. That's a huge skill. And so like if you're searching up care for who is it, your father?
My dad.
Your dad, after surgery, you're going to want to find a reliable source. You don't want to do anything wrong.
No.
Hurt your father. So I would guess that you were looking for some reliable sources to educate yourself.
Yes.
That's just a really good example. And that is intellectual curiosity. You're not going to just go to the doctor and say, okay, doctor, what do I do for my dad? No, you're taking the initiative, and you're curious, and you research on your own to find the answers. And that is just such an awesome skill. How about you, Susanna? Do you do this?
I remember the last time when we learned Martin Luther King's speech. Yeah,
Yes.
so I check online and see who is this person and what he did. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember that. You did
yeah,
do that. And it's really great that you did that as a person living in America. That was an important person in our history, in our country. And he relates to you guys in that he was speaking up for the people who did not have power in the government, right? And so, in a way, it relates to you guys because it's the same thing. Immigrants sometimes don't have the same power in our governmental system that other people do. And so it's really important to look back at leaders who stood up for those people. And, so it's a really good person to learn about. So I'm glad you were curious. You went and you checked it out on your own. So how about you, Simone?
Oh, I do this all the time. I'm I'm curious. Oh, for everything, I love Google.
Yes, me too. I really, really love Google. I am a naturally curious person. I Google everything.
Yeah.
And I've gotten really good at, and not always, sometimes I get fished in. So, fished in means like I fall for something that's fake, right? My husband calls it fished in. It means like I bite, here's like a fishing line and they're dangling it and I bite, right? And then I go, oh, I fell for it. It was totally fake and I totally fell for it. How lame am I? Like later on, I find out that it wasn't true, right? So every now and again, I'll get fished in. I will bite on something that was fake or not real. But I've gotten really good at deciphering what's real and what's fake. And it's a really important skill to have. Okay, so do you have any questions about the meanings of these words? There's so many of them. Adaptability, I have the definitions here. It means you can change if you need to. Study skills, you guys should know: time and goal management, leadership, self-control. This one makes me laugh because every now and again I have troubles with self-control. Like I'll be in a meeting and I'll just blurt something out, because it's just making me frustrated. And I have a hard time to just like, okay, maybe in a meeting with a bunch of my superiors, I should not just blurt these things out, right? So self-control is being able to judge when is the best time to say something, the appropriateness of what you say and when you say it, right? When and where and how and why you say something. It really, you have to decide, you have to have a good gauge of propriety of what is considered acceptable in that situation. Sometimes I cross those boundaries. And sometimes that's a good trait to have because I push people to kind of go beyond what they would have done. I get frustrated when people don't want to do anything. They just have excuses for why things won't work. And sometimes I get frustrated. So that's a good quality in that if I blurt something out, maybe I'm just kind of pushing people in limits and saying, look, we can do this. But other times I might offend people. I might say something that makes somebody mad or annoyed or not want to have me present. So yeah, it's really difficult. Self-control is one of those things. It takes like an understanding of the situation. Collaboration, communication, problem solving, critical thinking. So this means analyzing. It means looking at a situation and figuring out what are the causes of things or what are the roots of. It's so hard because this is very, very general. but I'm trying to think of like a specific example for this. So, say you're having a problem. Oh gosh, and I'm actually teaching for IET. This is going to be, Susanna, this is going to be the next topic, problem solving. And it's very easy to make assumptions about why the problem is happening. But sometimes you can be wrong, right? Sometimes you can make a wrong assumption. So it's really important to ask the right questions and then make a judgment after you've collected all of the facts. So for example, at a particular factory, this is one of the examples that comes up in my mind. They kept having troubles with one machine breaking down, and it was costing them a lot of money. It was a chocolate factory, I think. And it was a machine that had a conveyor belt on it. Those belts that move things along. It's like a big flat canvas, and it's on rollers, and it goes like this, and the stuff is sitting on it. It goes down the line like this, and that's the conveyor belt. It just pushes things along. Well, that belt kept breaking, and so everybody was like, okay, this is causing too many problems in the factory. It's costing a lot of money because it shuts the system down while we have to fix it. And so they were like, well, why is this happening now? This hasn't been happening before. What's going on? And so they were like, is it the operator? Is the guy running the machine doing something wrong? Is it how long we're running the machine? Is it the conveyor? Is there a defect in the conveyor belt? But the conveyor belts just kept breaking one after the other. And so they had to ask a lot of questions. Well, they finally figured out that the person who was buying the conveyor belts switched the place where they were buying the conveyor belts from. But they had to go and they had to ask questions. And in a big factory, sometimes you have to ask a lot of people questions. So they finally asked the person who was buying the conveyor belts, did you do anything different? And he said, oh, I switched companies. I bought the same conveyor belt, but from a different company. Well, what they found out is the new conveyor belts were not as good. They were cheaper, but they were not as good. But they had to critically think about what the possible causes could be of that situation. So this is a really important skill. Mm-hmm. Self-awareness and persistence. And I don't know about you guys, but I have made mistakes before with my critical thinking. So here, I'll give you an example where I was wrong about something and I felt bad after the fact. My mom was getting sick all of a sudden. She's 87 or 88 years old, and she always has health problems, but she was having a new health problem. She was feeling very, very weak in her legs, very, very tired, and she just didn't want to get out of bed. And I remembered that she had told me a couple weeks prior that she was taking herself off of one of her drugs on purpose. She didn't like that drug, the way it was making her feel. And so she was purposely just taking herself off of that drug. So I made the assumption that that's why she was having weakness in her legs and a feeling of fatigue. That was my assumption. I thought I was right. I was telling everyone in our family, oh, it's because mom is going off this drug. She did it on her own and didn't even ask her doctor. That's got to be why. Well, she ended up going to the doctor, and guess what? I was wrong. I was wrong about that. So the doctor said, no, those symptoms would not happen if your mom was going off that drug. her symptoms are related to something else. And they had to do some more tests. The doctor had to do some more tests. They ended up finding out, you guys, that my mom had a urinary tract infection. Okay. She had to go to the hospital and they had to do a lot of tests. So I made an incorrect assumption. And if my mom had not gone to the doctor, she could have gotten very, very sick. So it was a situation where I did not use good critical thinking skills, right? I made an assumption that was wrong. And then I didn't bother to ask other questions, and seek other answers. So have you guys ever done something like this where you made an incorrect assumption about something? And when you found out later that you were wrong? It could even be just about a relationship. Like you assume somebody's mad at you because of the way they're acting.
Yes, sometimes I always question about my daughter because I see she typing something, but she's smiling, and I'm thinking, okay, oh, you're talking with your friend, you're not working your homework, right? So always you are chatting now. Do your homework. So, but later I found, oh no, it's my fault. Yeah, she was doing the homework, but something funny she thinks, so that's why she smiled.
And I do that all the time. It's what drives our kids crazy, right? We make assumptions about our children.
Yeah.
And then they get mad. They're like, Mom, I'm doing my homework. Stop accusing me of doing something that I'm not doing. So
Yes.
I do this all the time, Susanna. Don't feel bad. Of course, I've had to learn to not say something until I have asked questions about what is going on. And then I try to be nice because I don't want my kids to feel like I'm like looking over their shoulder. What are you doing? I want them to feel like I'm just being nice. I'm just checking in on them. I'm just seeing what they're doing. And if they're not working, I don't jump down their throats. We'll get back to work. I'm like, oh, just taking a break? Okay, cool. That's cool. Take a little break for a while. What time do you think you'll get back to your work, right? And give the power to them, right? Okay, Mom, I'm going to take a break until like 10:30 and then I'll get back to my work, If you approach it like that, your relationship with your kids, it changes. It changes a lot. And to me, yeah, that relates to critical thinking because we're not making false assumptions about our kids. We're actually taking the time to really look at what's actually going on. Our kids are having a hard time, Susanna. This is hard, what they're doing.
Yes, and because like some lab, the lab test, and usually they go to the class and the teacher will show them how to do it. But now they only watch the video or they do by themselves. It's a lack of, the how I say, it's lack to facial. It's
Yes.
hard to say. It's lack to.
Lack of facial expression.
Facial. Yeah.
Yes. Lack of explanation.
That's right.
Lack of talking back and forth. The inability to ask questions. It's very difficult for them.
Yeah.
It's not as interesting. It can be confusing. It's really hard. So yeah. I think we lost Simone. I'm sad. Simone, are you here? Oh, good. Yay. Okay. Simone, how about you? Are you hearing what we're saying?
Yeah. talking about the critical thing.
Yes, and we're just talking about times when we make false assumptions. We didn't do the kind of critical thinking we should have done. Like, sometimes we make false assumptions.
Yeah, sometimes not a lot of times because most of the time I'm right.
Okay,
No,
you're good.
I think it happens for everybody. Everyone can make a false
Assumptions.
assumptions.
Yes,
Yes,
false assumption.
assumptions. Yes, sometimes
Yes. Yeah, everyone can, right? Everyone can make false assumptions, but that's hilarious. You say, most of the time I'm right. I think as parents, we're good at figuring out what's going on, kind of like a teacher. You've been around students so long that you kind of know the typical kinds of behavior.
Yeah.
Even though you're right most of the time, the thing of it is you could be wrong some of the time. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to make assumptions about people based on all the rest of the people. You want to give everybody a fair chance based on their own behavior and not group them in with everyone else, because that gets really dangerous. You can't do that. You have to always look at every situation individually. And while most of the time you could be right, what you thought was true was really true, but you might end up coming across a situation where you would have been wrong if you hadn't asked the right questions. Yeah, so it's good to just stop yourself and go, okay, wait, before I make an assumption, I better ask the right questions first.
Yeah.
Yes. And especially as a teacher, you don't ever want to accuse a student of doing something or being a certain way. You have to always try to understand their situation. And especially me, I work at the high school with students who come from difficult situations. They have many, many reasons that I might not know about that I should check into before I assume anything. Yeah. So, okay, cool. So we have this list. And I think the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. Self-awareness, persistence. It means you don't give up. You just keep trying. Even if you fail sometimes, you keep trying, you keep going. Applied knowledge. So what this means is you use your experience from the past to apply to what you're doing right now. As we get older, we have had more and more experiences throughout our life, and it makes us wiser. We have more to bring to the table, and we can use what we learned in the past to do our job in the present. And last one, social or personal responsibility. It says be accountable. I really kind of relate this one to integrity. Integrity and personal responsibility. Yeah, they're very much related, right? Because personal responsibility really is based on integrity. If you have integrity, you will make sure that you are personally responsible for the things that you know you need to be responsible for. So those two are definitely related. Okay, so this last activity, we could maybe do this together as a group. Oh, no, we can't, because this is about you guys. So you're going to have to do this on your own. So some of you may have already done this. It says my strongest dispositions. So like, which are your strongest dispositions and which ones would you like to make stronger? So this example is me. I did this. This is actually about me. My strongest dispositions are creativity, leadership, and problem solving. In my job, I'm constantly presented with tasks without preset solutions, meaning there's not one right way of solving the problem. You got to figure out how to solve the problem. I'm good at analyzing what is needed and creating solutions to these problems using creative forethought and trial and error. So, in other words, creative forethought, thinking ahead about what's going to be needed. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. So that's why we have the trial and error. You think you know what's going to work, but then when you try it out, certain things don't work, and you realize you didn't think of something, right? I tend to take a leadership role in my group of colleagues in helping to solve common or unique problems. I would like to work on self-control. So this is just what I said. Sometimes I can react to problems that come up by getting very worried and reactive, like blurting things out in the moment and doing a lot of unnecessary work. Sometimes I dive into fixing a problem and work, and then find out that that problem wasn't the right problem to solve. Like I was putting a lot of work in on something that in the end, that was the wrong problem to solve. We needed to work on this other problem more than we needed to work on that problem. So yeah, sometimes I dive in too quickly. I don't spend time asking all of the right questions. I think that taking the time to be calm and think rationally about the easiest and most effective solutions helps in a time of panic, in a time when everybody is feeling stressed out, frustrated, worried. There's a big problem happening and it needs to be solved as quickly as possible, but we have to think about it ahead, right? So you're going to do the same thing. So I'm guessing that some of you already did this. So let me look. Activity 6. It looks like 6 people turned this in. Awesome. So one of them was Susanna, and one was Betty. And oops, my thing is so reactive. It just clicks immediately when I touch it. So awesome. Betty, do you mind if I read yours then? Is that okay?
Yes.
And I'll ask you questions about it. And Edie, so Simone, I guess later on you'll know what to do for this one.
Yes, I did on my notebook,
Okay, no problem.
and
Yeah.
I will turn in
Okay,
maybe today.
sounds good. Okay, so here's Betty's. My stronger dispositions are leadership, solving problems, and creativity. Oh, like me, Betty. At home, as a mother of the 3 children, I need to be always leading my day. So actually, I'm always leading my day and activities. I'm going to take out that comma. I'm good solving problems using my creativity because small problems arise day by day. I would like to work on self-control because sometimes I react impulsively to small problems. I'm not a perfect person, but day by day I try to do my best.
We lost them.
You and I are a lot alike, huh, Betty?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of us are similar in that way. Especially, you know, being a mom. A mom makes you have to solve problems, right? Quickly.
Yes,
Okay,
I know.
so Susanna, do you mind if I read yours?
Sure.
Okay. I should have you guys read these, huh? My strength is dealing with changes. 2 years ago, my husband got a new job in the US and came here before me and my daughter. I was still living in Vancouver because I wanted my daughter to graduate from her middle school before we moved. Later, we bought a new home in Livermore, but because we didn't have any credit ratings in the US, most American banks declined our applications. I was really frustrated because I thought our high credit ratings in Canada would help us. Ooh, that is frustrating. Fortunately, HSBC eventually lent us money. Then I registered my daughter in her high school and arranged a moving company to ship our furniture. To ship our furniture and car to our new place. I was very happy since everything had been settled down before we lived in our new home. I realized English is my weakness and I need to improve and practice it all the time. Oh, awesome. I love that. Thank you, Susanna. So her strength is dealing with changes. That's awesome. And that's a really good trait to have in like school and also work. So Simone, if you had to answer this, what would you say are your strengths and your weaknesses with relationship to this slide presentation of traits? Here, I'll go back to that page. Like if you had to say which one is your strength,
I put my strongest dispositions are integrity, intellectual curiosity, persistence, and leadership.
what was the one right before leadership?
Persistence.
Persistent.
Persistence. Ah, okay.
Hmm.
All right. And then
And
what would you? Oh, go ahead.
I'm developing my activity.
I didn't get that last thing.
I'm still working on it
Working on which one?
in the activity 6.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just asking you, like right now, if you had to say one of these that you need to work on, one of these.
It's adaptability,
Okay.
self-control,
Self-control.
collaboration, maybe.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you want to work on adaptability, changing when needed, self-control. I think we all said that one.
Yeah.
We all do this. We're all human, right? We react to our own emotions in the situation. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to be calm and realize that later on you might regret acting impulsively because you find out some information that you didn't realize or something like that, so self-control, that's a hard one. But she said adaptability. So some people like Susanna are really good at change, right? And other people, it's not their strength. They don't like to do lots of change. They like to get used to doing just a few things really well, and it feels comfortable and it feels safe, and they get really good in that one area. That was me. And I had to learn how to be adaptable. Technology was not my strong suit in the beginning. It made me feel scared. And I had to learn to not be afraid. I had to just dive in and start learning. And in the beginning, the learning process was so painful. Sometimes I would try and fail, and it felt so frustrating, like I wasn't going to get it. And now I have become much more quick at learning new things. I just decide to stop feeling afraid and I just plow forward. And if I can't get it the first time around, I put it aside for a little while and then I come back to it later and I try again. Or I go ask other people questions, or I look something up on the internet and I come back to it later when I have some time. I think one of the things that makes change so scary is that you're worried you're not going to have time for it, and you're worried you're going to fail. And the thing that I've learned is that you can only do what you can do. You can't do more than what you can do, right? So if you just take things in baby steps each day, you get a little bit better at something a little bit at a time. And if you just keep track of what you're doing, you can see that you've made progress. So I'll show you something that I do, you guys, for my work. I keep track of how I spend my time. So this is like a breakdown of my days. And this really helps me, like right here, attach bridge video, take attendance, work on IET, co-op objectives and tasks. And I write down the time, how long it took me to do that. Create video assignments, update fill-in outline. It's like a breakdown of what I'm doing. But I can go back and look at it later and say, oh, yeah, this is how long it took me to do the Native Language Buddies classroom. Like you can see right here, Native Language Buddies created WebEx meetings. Here, work on Native Language Buddies. Ooh, I should say what I did. I think that day I made the slide presentation. Work on Language Buddies slide presentation. So you can see that if you break things down into small bits, it's not as scary, right? You just take one thing. Okay, well, I know I'm going to need a slide presentation. So today I'll make the slide presentation. Okay, and then I got it done. It took me an hour and 15 minutes, right? Native Language Buddies created, okay, I know I'm going to need some meeting links for people to go on to. So today at 8:45 a.m., I started making meeting links for all of the meetings, right? So this is a way to kind of break things down. And so things don't seem so big. You just take them a step at a time. And that's all you can do. That's all I could do today for Language Buddies. I made the links. That's what I did. You know, and that's all I could do today. Tomorrow I will, later today, I'll make the script for you guys, you know, so you guys can practice doing your thing in your native language, right? So that we can record you. That'll be my next step. So this is just something that begins to make you really successful because each day you take a small step. And you get a little bit closer to your biggest goal, which for me is to have a successful Language Buddies classroom, right? So you think you can do it overnight, but you can't. You can't do something like that overnight. It's a big task. So I could have in the beginning just said, oh, we're not going to do Language Buddies. It takes too long. Can't do it. Too big of a task. I didn't do that. I said, okay, well, today I'll make a slide presentation. Tomorrow I'll do this. The next day I'll do this. We just chip away at it a little bit at a time. Okay. So I think that's it for today, you guys. So we're done with this slide presentation.
Laura,
Yes.
have you do you have the same feeling about working at home and spend more time than work in working place, right? Do you have? Yeah, my husband, I think he's working for a long time. I mean, than before. Yeah, before it's 8 hours, right? Or 9 hours. But now, wow, 10 hours, 12 hours.
Yes.
Oh, that's hard.
It
Even
is.
harder, right?
It is. It's way harder. I do work more hours than I used to. There are so many things that you can get done in person that take forever if you have to work remote. Like when we're in person, I could just show you guys how to get to somewhere on the internet just by putting it up on the screen. Now I have to make a video about it. I have to write instructions. You know, everything takes forever, you know, like even this Language Buddies classroom. If those beginning students were inside a classroom, we wouldn't even be doing it at all, right? Because the teacher would just get them on the computer, right? And say, okay, here's your site. Now do what you're supposed to do, right? The teacher would show them step by step how to do this. And they would walk around the room and they would check to see who needed help, or they would put people who knew what they were doing next to the people who didn't know what they were doing. So you can just get so much more done when you're in person.
Yes.
So yeah, it is. It's hard. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
One of the things I've had to do is just cut off my work time. Just stop, right? Just say, okay, I'm going to end at 5 today. No more correcting, no more. And I might be behind on my correcting, but it's like we teachers are doing the best we can, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get our correcting done very quickly. We have so many other things that we're doing, you know, like we just have to do our best. Or maybe I just can't correct as many things. I have to say, okay, I'm going to correct this one, but I'm not going to correct this one, you know? So you have to make choices. What's the most important? So, okay, we usually go to for an hour and a half. So I think we might be beyond. What time is it? It's almost 11:30. So any other questions or comments? So I'm going to be sending you guys the script to translate, and I want you to practice doing it.
I
yes.
have one question. So, for the translation, like Google Classroom, can I use Google because it's hard to translate to a Chinese word? So
Of
I
course.
can use, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, whatever tools help you, go for it.
No, I mean the Google is a company name, right? So
Yes.
it's hard to use a Chinese word.
see. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. You just say Google.
Okay.
Yeah. Just use everyone should know what Google is because
Sure.
in our program, we're using Google Classroom, we're using Gmails, we're using Google Docs. Our students should at least know what Google is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Everything we do is on Google. So Simone, yeah, if you could translate that one to Portuguese, that would be. Oh no, Simone already did. It was Susanna who didn't yet. That's right. Simone already did it. So I'm gonna send you guys the like little script so you can practice the presentation, and then I'm gonna have to figure out when to record you guys. Maybe I could have you show up to class a little bit early or something. It should only take like 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. It's, you know, maybe 10 minutes. I don't know. So something like that. So I can just schedule you guys. So next time I see you, I'll ask you because, you know, a week away, so we only meet once a week. When do you think you guys could be ready to do the recording? How long do you think it would take you to practice and be ready?
I think next Thursday, no problem.
Next Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you guys could show up to the meeting a little early then? Like instead of 10 a.m., you could come out like I would put like Betty at 9:45 and I would put Susanna at 9:30 and I would put Simone at 9 or something like that. Would that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Susanna, how about 9 a.m. for you?
9 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
That work for the recording?
Sure.
And then I'll put you at 9:30, Betty.
Okay.
And that'll be for the recording. And then Simone, okay. So 9:30, 10 is the meeting.
45.
Yeah, I guess I'll do you at 9:45, Simone. It's going to be cutting it close. Maybe I should make, Betty, I should do you at like 9:20.
Okay.
9:20, and then I'll do Simone at 9:40. Okay? I think 20 minutes each should be good. 9:40. Simone, I think it won't take 20 minutes to talk through this for sure. It'll give us some time. So just don't worry if you make mistakes in your speech. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just stop and start again. I'm not going to stop the recording and then start recording all over again. If you make a mistake, just stop, reorient yourself, and start again. I do it all the time on my recordings. Otherwise, you never get them done. You know, it's just like make a mistake, whatever, just stop and start again and keep going. Okay, so look for that. It's going to be, I'm going to be posting it today, the script for you guys. Okay? All right. Cool. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
See you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.